Mendeecees Harris may be returning to prison. The unimaginable has happened. The whole love and hip-hop world is in a frenzy. Yandy is crushed, and fans are in total disbelief. A shocking legal development has completely upended the Harris family's lives just when it appeared that they had moved on from their difficult past. Court records are supposedly involved, murmurs are becoming louder, and reports are pouring in. Is this a real thing? Could Mendeecees be facing a significant jail sentence once more? If that's the case, what does this portend for Yandy, their offspring, and the empire's future? Yandy hasn't stopped crying since the news broke, according to people close to the pair. She has been making frantic phone calls, according to insiders, in an attempt to find a way out of this legal nightmare. However, things are not looking good due to growing evidence and an unexpected betrayal from a person they once trusted. The tension is intolerable, the stakes are great, and the emotions are raw. We're going to reveal every astounding detail, so stay tuned. What caused this startling change? Who is responsible for this unexpected legal assault? Above all, is it possible for Mendeecees to get out of jail this time? Let's get started. Social media is being rocked by the drama surrounding Mendeecees Harris, which has just reached an all-time high. For Yandy Smith, what began as a typical day has become a complete nightmare. She woke up to a flurry of messages, phone calls, and breaking news alerts, news that would alter everything, according to family sources. It all started with the unexplained internet release of a sealed court document. According to reports, the document includes fresh information related to Mendeecees' prior legal issues, evidence that might result in his reincarceration. The internet was quick to start speculating, and Mendeecees started trending on Twitter in a matter of hours. The fans were anxious to find out what was going on. How did people find out about this? Above all, is Mendeecees truly on the verge of losing his freedom once more? Insiders claim that Yandy was caught off guard. She was unaware of what was going on behind the scenes. Her phone started exploding as she was in the middle of a business meeting. She initially disregarded it, assuming it was simply another unfounded internet rumor. The headline, breaking, Mendeecees Harris past legal troubles resurface. Is he facing prison time again? Stopped her cold, though, and her heart fell. Her hands began to shake. She tried calling Mendeecees right away, but he didn't pick up. Panic struck. What was happening? After leaving the conference in a hurry, she headed straight to her car and began furiously reading blogs, social media posts, and articles that all said the same thing. Mendeecees' old case was being reviewed. According to rumors, fresh evidence has surfaced that might render his prior plea agreement void. In that case, his full term might be reinstated. Yandy's eyes filled with tears. She was having trouble breathing. Mendeecees wasn't the only topic of discussion. Their future, their children, and their family were at stake. How could she explain to her kids that their father would be taken away from them once more? She eventually got in touch with Mendeecees' attorney, but the response she received just made matters worse. I need you to go home, Yandy. We must speak, right now. Mendeecees was sitting in startled stillness in their home. The news was much worse than he had anticipated when he had just hung up the phone with his lawyer. According to a sworn document purportedly acquired by the DA's office from a former associate, Mendeecees omitted important information from his initial confession. One thing this meant was that Mendeecees might be accused of misleading the court by the prosecution. What if a judge concurred? He might be sentenced to the rest of his time, right away. Yandy noticed Mendeecees' expression as soon as she entered the house. Her heart fell. She said, "Tell me this isn't real. Tell me this is nothing more than internet bullshit." Mendeecees gave a head shake. Yandy, it's true. It's not good. Tears were running down her face as she fell into the couch. No. This cannot happen to us again. Her hands were taken by Mendeecees. I'm not sure what's going on, but I can assure you that I will not return to prison. However, even he secretly doubted the veracity of that. Then the greatest twist of all occurred. Everyone was stunned by what Mendeecees' lawyer disclosed. Who was the purported source of the fresh testimony? Was a member of the inner circle of Mendeecees, someone they used to trust. Yandy took a sharp breath. Hold on, what? Who would act in this way? Mendeecees gave a disbelieving shake of his head. I'm not sure. One thing was certain, though, someone close to them had betrayed them. They had just jeopardized Mendeecees' entire future, regardless of who it was. Social media, however, was in utter disarray. The following theories were posted in the comments by fans. Who is spying on Mendeecees? This is absurd. They're attempting to separate this man from his family once more. Some. Yandy must be ill at the moment. This is excessive. Celebrities also started to voice their opinions. While others conjectured about who could have betrayed Mendeecees, others offered Yandy their support. Rumors were circulating about the Love and Hip Hop cast, and even blogs about reality TV were posting mysterious comments that alluded to conflict that was going on behind the scenes. But in the midst of all of this, Mendeecees and Yandy were juggling something far more important, an impending court appearance that had the potential to alter everything. The attorney for the Mendeecees cautioned them that an emergency hearing would be held in just 48 hours. They had to identify the traitor, put up a defense, and somehow persuade the judge that Mendeecees wasn't deserving of being sent back to prison. It was too much pressure. Mendeecees was becoming more and more paranoid. Yandy hadn't slept, and her eyes were red from crying. Who were they to believe? Was anyone else in their group prepared to turn on them once more? They received a phone call that completely altered their situation, just when they believed it couldn't get much worse. When Yandy's phone rang, she hesitated for a second. She looked at the screen, an unidentified number, her hands shaking. She had a gut feeling that the person calling had something significant to say. After inhaling deeply, she responded, "Hey!" A hushed voice answered, "Yandy, even if you don't know me, I am aware of Mendeecees' predicament, and I am aware of its perpetrator." Her heart was racing in her chest. "Who is this? I'm not allowed to speak too much at this time. However, you must be mindful of your back. The prosecutors are collaborating with someone you know. They want to get rid of Mendeecees." Yandy felt her blood run cold. "What does gone signify to you?" "They are advocating for the worst punishment possible. They will ensure that he doesn't return home if this goes to court." Yandy's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you stating this to me?" The caller was hesitant. "Because it is incorrect. Mendeecees has already completed his sentence. However, someone is seeking retribution and is making sure he pays for an act he did not commit." The clue stopped working. Yandy's thoughts was racing as she stood motionless. Who might this be? And after all these years, why would anyone wish to exact revenge on Mendeecees now? Her voice trembled as she turned to Mendeecees. "I just received a call. They said they are collaborating with the DA and that there is a snitch." Mendeecees made fists out of his hands and tightened his jaw. "I was aware of it. I was aware that this was not only a haphazard judicial ruling." Yandy brushed away her tears and got to her feet. "We must identify the person responsible for this, and quickly." The attorney for Mendeecees called at that same moment. He spoke solemnly. "We're having an issue. According to the prosecution, transactions connected to you, Mendeecees, have been discovered in fresh financial data. They claim that this demonstrates that you continued to engage in unlawful activity after being freed." Mendeecees' face contorted with rage. "What a blatant falsehood. Since I left, I hadn't done anything unlawful." Yandy picked up the phone. "This is absurd. From where exactly are they obtaining this?" The attorney let out a sigh. "That's the problem. The source of this information had to be someone with access to Mendeecees' private documents. Someone you know well." Yandy felt her stomach turn. It was a genuine betrayal. Mendeecees and Yandy sat at their dining table that evening, attempting to put things together. "Consider Mendeecees," Yandy said. "Who have we recently allowed into our circle? Who has access to your personal life, history, or finances?" Mendeecees gave a headshake. "I'm not sure, Yandy. At the moment, I don't trust anyone." Yandy's eyes then grew wide. She started to say, "Wait a minute. What about?" but was interrupted by a loud bang on the door. Boom, boom, boom. They both leaped. Mendeecees rushed for his phone out of instinct. "Who is it?" Quietness. Yandy's heart was racing. Then the knocking came again, louder. Boom. Mendeecees walked gently to the door and looked through the peephole. Boom. Boom. He stiffened. "The police are involved." Yandy let out a gasp. "Oh my God." Mendeecees looked in her direction. "Remain composed. Keep quiet." He pulled the door open. Outside, 2 officers stood with unreadable expressions. One of them said anything. "Mendeecees Harris, we have some questions for you." Mendeecees made himself keep his cool. "Am I being arrested?" "Not yet," said the cop, "but things could quickly change if you don't cooperate." Yandy took Mendeecees by the arm. "Don't say anything, maybe. We require legal counsel." The officers looked at each other. "You have that right. However, we highly recommend that you visit the station." Talking of us now will make things much easier. Mendeecees' hands clenched. Without my attorney, I'm not going anywhere. The cop let out a sigh. All right, get what you want. Don't leave town, though. Yandy turned to Mendeecees and slammed the door as the officers left. This is not good. Very terrible. Mendeecees wiped his face with his hand. Yandy, they have nothing. They wouldn't be asking questions if they did. I would be placed in handcuffs. Yandy took a deep breath. So what's causing us to feel as though time is running out? Social media was booming in the meantime. Speculation among fans was raging. Are Mendeecees being detained once more? Say it isn't. I'm so sorry about Yandy. She's experienced enough. Love and hip-hop is going to get really messy if this is true. News organizations began to cover the story. Mendeecees may be returning to prison, according to reports from major media outlets, blogs, and gossip websites. Reporters were requesting statements, and paparazzi were set up outside their house. Then things became much more sinister. On her YouTube channel, a well-known blogger who is notorious for uncovering celebrity secrets revealed something shocking. She grinned into the camera as she remarked, "I just got some tea, y'all." And when I say it's a mess, it's disorganized. This entire incident, according to my confidential sources, it goes beyond Mendeecees' history. Oh no, sweetheart. It has to do with his actions behind Yandy's back. When Yandy viewed the footage, she almost dropped her phone. What on earth is she discussing? As he watched, Mendeecees' jaw tensed as he reached for the phone. The blogger went on. Rumor has it that someone close to Yandy discovered something extremely nefarious about Mendeecees, and they are using it to discredit him. To put it simply, it has something to do with business. If you understand. Yandy felt as though her lungs had been blown out. No, 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 no. They're telling lies. They're telling lies. Mendeecees struck the table with his fist. This is becoming unmanageable. They tried to lock me up first. They're coming for our wedding now. Yandy's eyes began to well up with tears. Who is harming us like this? The phone of Mendeecees buzzed. A message from an unidentified number. You believe you can move on from your past? Rethink your thought. The truth is emerging. Mendeecees' face went white as he gazed at the screen. Yandy hardly spoke above a whisper. What truth, baby? Mendeecees gazed at her with an expression in his eyes that Yandy had never seen before. Shame, she suddenly became aware that he had omitted something from her. Something that might make all the difference. Yandy's thoughts were racing as she gazed at Mendeecees. What is the truth, Mendeecees? What are they discussing? Mendeecees stood frozen in silence, unwilling to look her in the eye. Yandy could feel the ground moving beneath her, and there was no denying the remorse on his face. Her whole world was falling apart. Take a look at me, Mendeecees. With a broken voice, she demanded. What did you do? Mendeecees eventually lifted his gaze to hers, but he was unable to speak. He was certain that his next words would hurt her feelings, yet he could no longer remain mute. With tears running down her cheeks, Yandy shook her head. Mendeecees, you promised me the world. You assured me that all of stuff would be resolved. What did you do? Mendeecees started to say, but his voice broke. Yandy, I didn't want to involve you in this. This is not how I expected it to come back to haunt us. Yandy brushed away her tears with shaky hands. What did you do? Mendeecees inhaled deeply, bracing himself for the admission. There was an agreement. Before I left for the first time, I made one final deal. Yandy, that wasn't meant to be revealed. I assumed it had been buried, but it must have been unearthed by someone. Yandy felt her heart sink. A bargain? What's the matter? Mendeecees paused, but he realized that lying now would not help. The money was dirty. Before I left, I needed the money to look after you and the children. I reasoned that no one would ever find out if I handled it discreetly. However, it has now reappeared. Yandy's legs felt weak, so she stepped back. You assured me that everything was tidy. Mendeecees adamantly stated, I didn't lie, but his tone lacked conviction. You lied to me. I simply thought it would no longer matter. Since I left, I've been working to put things right. But this thing is coming back to haunt me and is now endangering everything we've worked so hard to create. Yandy spoke in a chilly, incredulous tone. You didn't believe it would make a difference. Are you aware of what you did? Mendeecees, they want to put you back in jail. In prison. With the weight of his deeds crushing him, Mendeecees closed his eyes. I understand. I apologize as well, Yandy. I never intended for you to suffer harm. Yandy wasn't prepared to forgive, though, not now. "You've ruined everything," she muttered, her voice trembling with hurt and rage. "All of it. Our family, our future, it's all at jeopardy today because of you." Mendeecees reached for her, but Yandy stepped back, putting distance between them. Don't touch me right now. I can't even look at you." Mendeecees was silent, knowing there was nothing he could say to make things right. The next few days were a blur for Yandy. The tension in their home was intolerable. The kids were confused, sensing that something was badly wrong, but Yandy tried her best to hide them from the chaos. Meanwhile, the media frenzy began to spin out of control. More bloggers and gossip sites began circulating tales about Mendeecees' suspected criminal actions and the potential of him going back to prison. Headlines like "Mendeecees Harris shocking double life" and "Yandy Smith in tears as Mendeecees past comes back to haunt them" were everywhere. Calls from friends, family, and even fans who wanted to know what was going on were coming in on Yandy's phone. The rumors were pushing Yandy over the edge, and everyone had an opinion. Then Yandy got a call one afternoon that would alter everything. It was the attorney for Mendeecees. "We have fresh knowledge, Yandy. All of this is the result of someone tugging the strings." Yandy's heart raced. "Who? Who's doing this to us?" The lawyer hesitated, then lowered his voice. "This is a name we were not expecting. Someone you know well." Yandy felt her blood run cold. "Who is it?" The attorney let out a sigh. "Kimberly." Yandy froze, her thoughts racing. "Kimberly? As in Kimberly, my cousin?" "Yes. We have evidence that she has been providing the prosecutors with information on Mendeecees' prior activities. She is the one who initiated the entire situation." Yandy fell into a chair after her legs failed her. This is unbelievable. The treachery was unthinkable. Someone Yandy had trusted with everything, Kimberly, was family. Now, however, everything made sense. The enigmatic phone conversations, the disclosures, and the prosecutors' apparent insider knowledge. It had been Kimberly who had been undermining them from within. Yandy felt a mixture of destruction and rage. How could she have been harmed by Kimberly? To their relatives? Mendeecees was sitting in the living room when Yandy barged in as the call came to an end. She spat, her voice full with emotion. "It's Kimberly. Kimberly is the one responsible for everything." The eyes of Mendeecees widened in surprise. "Kimberly? Kimberly, your cousin?" Yandy nodded, her angry hands trembling. "The prosecutors have been collaborating with her. This is all occurring because of her." Mendeecees got to his feet and paced the room. "Why? Why in the world is she against us?" Yandy's mind was racing as she wiped her eyes. "I'm not sure, but I'll find out." Later that evening, Yandy called Kimberly and confronted her, which would permanently alter their relationship. "Kimberly, why?" Yandy inquired, her voice quivering with rage. "Why would you harm me in this way?" to Mendeecees. On the other end of the clue, Kimberly's voice sounded icy. "Yandy, I did what I had to do. You have no idea what kind of situation I was in." Yandy was enraged. "You were not entitled to include us in your mess. Are you being aware of your actions? You've ruined everything." Kimberly laughed. "You believe I'm interested in your small utopia. You have always pretended to be untouchable, as have Mendeecees. Guess what, though? Yandy, everyone has skeletons, and he just so happened to be revealed." Yandy was shocked by what she was hearing. She had once thought of the lady as family, but now she was cold, calculating, and unrepentant. Yandy remarked in a cold voice, "Kimberly, you're dead to me. We're done after this. Never give me another call." Her hands shaking with a mixture of anger and heartache, she hung up the phone. Mendeecees took a seat next to her and drew her into his embrace. "I apologize, Yandy. I'm so sorry." Yandy, however, was unable to talk. The damage was done, and the betrayal was too profound. The storm was far from ended, and their lives were forever altered. Another surprise made headlines just when it looked like things couldn't get much worse. The additional evidence the prosecution has could result in Mendeecees serving a lengthy prison sentence. And it seems that there was no escape this time. The air was heavy with expectancy, and the courtroom was tight. With her heart racing, Yandy gripped the borders of her seat in the front row. As the judge went through the case files, Mendeecees stood by his attorney, his teeth clenched. The prosecutor stepped forward with a sneer that made Yandy's spine tingle after clearing his throat. "Your Honor, there is now strong evidence that Mr. Harris engaged in financial impropriety in connection with his prior transactions. According to this evidence, he purposefully concealed information about some monies that were obtained illegally. Yandy felt sick to her stomach. She had not anticipated this to be this bad. The tension in the courtroom became intolerable as the murmurs became louder. The lawyer for Mendeecees got up right away. "We ask that you give us some time to examine this alleged new evidence, Your Honor. We think this is really a deliberate attempt to cast my client in a bad light, and the prosecution has conveniently discovered this material at the last minute." The judge rubbed his temples and moaned. "Enough. Before I make a judgment, I must carefully analyze this." He gave Mendeecees a quick glance. "Mr. Harris, I must take into account your past because of the seriousness of the accusations. I will, however, give your legal staff some time to reply. You will continue to be closely monitored until that time. The court has been adjourned." Yandy's hands trembled as she let out a sharp breath. Although this was not the end, the prospect of going to jail was becoming more real every day. The journalists surrounded them as soon as they left the courthouse. "How do you feel about the most recent charges, Yandy? Mendeecees, do you anticipate returning to prison? Is your family's future over?" Yandy covered her face and refused to respond, but she was in a downward spiral. She looked to Mendeecees as soon as they arrived at the automobile, desperation shining in her eyes. "Mendeecees, tell me the truth. Have you not told me anything else? For I promise you, if anything else comes out." Mendeecees took hold of her hands. "That's it, Yandy, I promise. However, we must find a way to combat this. I will not return." Yandy's eyes were blazing with tears. "Then a miracle is required, because it feels like we're losing right now." The days that followed were stressful, full with legal meetings and restless nights. Yandy was so preoccupied with the worst-case scenarios that she seldom ate. How would Mendeecees' family fare if they were sent back to prison? Their children? All of their lives together? Then, when everything looked lost, a startling turn of events altered everything. An intense conversation between Kimberly and the prosecution was captured on a leaked audio tape that went viral online, demonstrating that she had made up evidence to support their case. Like wildfire, the recording went viral. Fans took to social media to support Yandy and Mendeecees. Overnight, hashtags such as #FreeMendeecees and #JusticeForHarrises became popular. As soon as possible, the legal team filed an emergency move to dismiss the case. The atmosphere had dramatically changed by the time they appeared in court again. After hearing the defense's case and pausing for a considerable amount of time, the judge rendered his verdict. The court concludes that the prosecution's case is seriously called into question by the recently disclosed evidence. "We cannot move forward with these charges in good faith without reliable, verifiable evidence. Consequently, this lawsuit is dropped." Yandy gasped for air. It was done. With tears running down her cheeks, she looked to Mendeecees. Whispering to her, "We made it," he drew her into a tight embrace. Reporters gathered outside the courthouse once more, but Yandy held her ground. "We were always aware of the truth," she asserted, "and now so does the world." But even after everything was said and done, the issue still stood. Would their family be able to move over this betrayal? Is Yandy ever going to be able to press Mendeecees completely again? What repercussions would Kimberly suffer for almost ruining their lives? There was no doubt that this story was far from over. Family, what are your thoughts? After this drama, can Yandy and Mendeecees be able to regain one another's trust? And should Kimberly be prosecuted for her actions? Tell us in the comments below. To ensure you never miss the newest tea, remember to hit the notification bell, like this video, and subscribe for more updates.